The American Locomotive Works, or ALCO, is truly one of the most successful locomotive builders in the United States. They have gained this remarkable reputation as they have produced icons in American railroading, such as the J3 Hudson, C636, RS3, and the RS1, and that even over 50 years since the end of their production, locomotives built by ALCO have been built with such quality that a good number of them are still in service today. Yet the story of some of these locomotives are not well known, as they not only work for tourist lines and pull excursions in remote areas in the nation, but are also involved in freight runs and stay within the same region of its original railroad for decades. All of these traits describe the loyal story of a popular ALCO which worked for a small railroad in Vermont and still runs in the same region to this day. Steam was dominant during the Roaring '20s, with hundreds of locomotives, large and small, being produced by steam building giants such as Lima, Baldwin, and ALCO. However, these companies were looking into a new, revolutionary type of locomotive which would eventually replace the steam giants. ALCO's first diesel box cab went into service in 1924, with similar locomotives being built for numerous northeastern railroads, but no one thought much of them as they only replaced steam locomotives in a few yards. However, by the 1930s, more diesels were being produced for switching and mainline services, and the steam locomotive was starting to lose influence in the American railroading industry. After producing a few more models of diesel switchers, ALCO finally made the locomotive which would replace thousands of steam locomotives nationwide when it pioneered the road switcher in 1941, named the RS1. This revolutionary locomotive had external walking platforms on all sides of the engine for easy access around the locomotive instead of a car body that extended the full width of the frame, and could easily be ran in either direction with a short and long nose. Once it was tested on various railroads across the nation, the RS1 became widely popular and successful as the go-to diesel road switcher which could do almost any task that a steam locomotive could. One of the lesser-known railroads to purchase this revolutionary locomotive was the Rutland Railway, who needed small and versatile locomotives to replace their outdated steam locomotives. Specifically, they purchased a total of 9 RS3s numbered 200 to 208, a GE 60-ton switcher numbered 500, and 5 RS1s numbered 400 to 405, with the locomotive to be focused on, 405, being the last one of the batch to be built in November 1951. As mixed-purpose locomotives, these diesels were often found pulling passenger and freight alike on the small railroad, and even helped some of their steam locomotives on some occasions. However, the Rutland Railway would struggle throughout the 1950s and would cease operations in 1963, with all of its assets being scattered. The state of Vermont would later take over freight service in the region as the Vermont Railway, and F. Nelson Blount was establishing a safe haven for steam locomotives and other endangered locomotives in rolling stock known as Steamtown, USA. Since the museum was located near the south end of the line at Bellows Falls, he petitioned for, and was granted, operating rights between Rutland and Bellows Falls, thus making this route the Green Mountain Railroad. Meanwhile, all of Rutland's RS3s were sold to the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, while the RS1s were scattered among numerous railroads in the U.S. As the Green Mountain Railroad was looking for a locomotive to be used for passenger excursions, they found 405 to be in relatively good condition and the last ex-Rutland RS1 available for sale. 405 was leased by Blount for use between the Green Mountain for freight service and Steamtown for passenger excursions with preserved Canadian steam locomotives. Sadly, Blount would only witness a few years of his success as he passed away in a plane crash in 1967, and relations between Steamtown and the Green Mountain short line became strained throughout the 70s due to conflicts over track maintenance and declining freight traffic. Despite these setbacks, 405 proved to be a very reliable engine on the railway, along with 2 other ex-Gulf Mobile and Ohio RS1s numbered 400 and 401, where the 3 often worked together in the Green Mountain operations. 405 was even given its original Rutland lettering in October 1982 for a photo charter. Eventually, when Steamtown was relocated to Scranton in 1983, the Vermont Historical Railroad was created to preserve and continue excursion rights in the region, which lasted only for 1 season before the Green Mountain Railroad agreed to take over tourist service in 1984. In addition to their local freight service, they filled the gap left by Steamtown by running their own passenger excursions, often with ex-Rutland coaches, with 405 often being used as power and the staple of the railroad. The locomotive would then be repainted around 1990 with a new coat of green as well as black on its roof with a yellow lining and orange safety stripes on its front for better visibility. In 1997, Freight traffic was starting to rise and Green Mountain joined the Vermont rail system, thus reuniting many of the former Rutland rail lines under a single ownership. A few years later, 405's orange safety stripes were removed and Green Mountain's new logo was placed on its cab and was named F. Nelson Blount in honor of Steamtown USA's founder, thus giving it the dark green, yellow, and black livery it has to this day. Since then, it has been found pulling excursions to White River Junction for the town's glory days of the railroad celebration, led a mixed passenger and freight NRHS photo chart in 2015, and was rescued by a locomotive mentioned in the previous episode of Remarkable Engines in 2017. As 405 can be found pulling excursion runs for the Green Mountain on ex-Rutland trackage, this engine continues to show its dedication for the line through its decades of working in the same region, proudly representing the persistence of an ALCO. Thank you all for watching this episode of Remarkable Engines. Starting off as a revolutionary road switcher for a little-known railroad in New England, this locomotive withstood the test of time as it has been used for passenger and freight service in the same region for decades after its original railroad shut down. Not to mention, few locomotives in the New England region, or any rail for that matter, have managed to serve the same region it was placed in service for as the ex-Rutland locomotive on ex-Rutland trackage for 70 years. Even with some rumors of 405 eventually retiring, the locomotive has and continues to prove its value as a dedicated locomotive of the Green Mountain Railway, as well as the Rutland Railroad and the mighty American Locomotive Works. Thank you again for watching. Stay tuned next time when I cover UTA 901, and shout out to Ben the Train Man for recommending this locomotive to be featured in Remarkable Engines. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Have a good day.